Look at this beauty all around you. Isn't it similar to how we conceive our relationships in the beginning? When we first meet our loved one, we find that everything is so bright, colorful, and sunny. We feel so happy and overjoyed, and we see beauty all around us. But then something happens. We awaken to the fact that our loved one, our romantic partner, is not a perfect person. And how could this be? They were the one of our hopes and dreams and fantasies. That person was the one who was going to come and fix everything, all of our woes, and make our life perfect, and we were going to live happily ever after. Okay, let's insert reality here. It's not that true love doesn't exist, and it's not that true love isn't possible. Of course it's possible. But true love takes hard work. True relationships require a lot of action and work and change and growth hurts. Have you ever heard a child say that their legs hurt because they were having growing pains? My youngest child, when he was he's still going through puberty, but in particular when he was starting to grow a lot, he would call them growth pains because I don't think he quite understood what growing pains were all about. He just knew that his bones were hurting somewhat. So in the last video on this relationship series, we're studying Imago relationship therapy from the book Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix, PhD. And I'm just turning this so you can see the beauty all around me too, very slowly. Sometimes it's better to look at the beauty behind and just have a listen than actually look at a face. We're studying this book, and this is now the 4th video in the series. If you haven't yet viewed the 3 previous videos, click on the playlist, go ahead and view those 3 previous videos because we're building up. This is actually a build-up into how to navigate Imago therapy. Let me emphasize that even if you are in the midst of a separation, if you're going through a divorce, or you're not currently actively working on your relationship because your partner doesn't want to work on the relationship, you can learn a great deal about relationships and how to manage your end of the relationship through this series and through this book. Just know that Harville Hendrix, the author of this book, talks about a relationship being like a water balloon. And he said that if one person presses on one side of the water balloon, that the shape of that balloon changes. So if you're working on yourself and your half of the relationship, then the relationship will ultimately change. Now, granted, if the person's not even talking to you, then it's going to be really difficult to flourish and grow. But you can always flourish and grow on your side so that when the person decides that they would like to engage in a relationship with you, then you already have the tools that you need in order to succeed. And that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at how to succeed in our romantic relationships. We're going to look at the wounded child within your partner. This is a really important concept in Imago therapy. A lot of times in relationships, when things go wrong and there's a lot of fighting and arguing and discord and conflict, we always think that it's the other person's fault, or we always feel that the other person isn't listening to us, or the other person's to blame, or that these problems are catastrophic, or we're even inclined to believe that the other person doesn't care, which is often not the case. It's not the case that this other person doesn't care. It's that this other person is trying to get their needs met as desperately as we are trying to get our personal needs met. Now, the needs may not be exactly the same at the same moment, and that's why we have conflict. But your partner also isn't doing this to you on purpose. Your partner, you must consider your partner as a wounded child. So a child that was wounded in infancy, in childhood, through their upbringing, and they're searching desperately to have those wounds healed. We're going to go through a series of exercises, and I'm going to tell you about them. And we're not going to do it together. You're going to do this on your own, but I will guide you through the different exercises that you're going to do in order to help heal your own wounds in hopes that you can help your partner heal his or her wounds as well. When we shift this perspective of looking at our loved one as a wounded child versus looking at them as the enemy, then we have a much more compassionate, loving view of them, and we have a more compassionate view of the relationship itself. When we really think like, my partner's doing this to me on purpose, my partner's trying to ruin my life and make me so sad and miserable, and my partner's not trying to meet my needs. When we come at it from that perspective, of course we have feelings of anger. We get anger and frustrated, and we're just beside ourselves, and we feel a loss of love. We feel a loss of connection, and we feel that, what did I do to deserve this treatment? It's nothing that you did to deserve this treatment. It's that they're trying desperately to reach out to you to help heal the wounds of their childhood. And at the same time, you're trying so desperately to reach out to them in order to heal your childhood wounds. And it's sort of a coming together of two different aspects, still trying to get needs met, but often we don't come to terms with whose turn it is first. And so we fall into a pattern of what the author calls parallel monologues. And I'm sure you've felt this in your relationships where you're talking with your loved one and you feel like you're talking to yourself or you're talking to a wall. And then when they talk back to you, they feel the same way. They feel like you're not hearing them, you're not understanding them, you're not understanding where they're coming from. And so you feel like you are just talking to a wall, and you might as well be talking to a wall because you guys are not hearing each other. You might be listening, sort of, but you're not really hearing and understanding one another. The tools that we learn in Imago dialogue will help you to reach out and reach into what your loved one is thinking and feeling, and finding that wounded child within. And through this dialogue, you can also, in yourself, I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera and I'm going to keep talking, but there's this really wild, fuzzy looking turtle. And I know it's not a fuzzy turtle, but it certainly looks like a fuzzy turtle. And I don't know if you can see it here. It's a really wild looking fuzzy turtle. And it's kind of looking at me. Hello, fuzzy turtle. I think it just has moss growing on its back. So it's pretty wild looking. It looks like it has hair growing on its back. See all these koi in the water? I think these are koi. They're really kind of cool. They're just floating around. See that? Oh, so beautiful. A nice distraction. A nice distraction from talking about the pain of relationships. Because let's face it, when relationships aren't going well, they're super painful. I can attest to that. I've had my fair share of painful relationships. Let's get back to the wounded child. So when you consider that your loved one is actually a wounded child and they're not mistreating you per se, they might be hurtful in what they're saying. They might get angry, upset. They might yell and scream. But usually when they're doing that, it's just saying, help, I need help. You're not giving me the love that I want. You're not giving me the attention that I want. You're not giving me the affection that I want. But they don't know how to say it. We were infants and we were in our bassinet. All of our caretakers took care of us in a way that no one since has ever taken care of us. When we needed to eat, they would feed us. When we needed to drink, they would feed us. They would give us to drink. And when we needed to be changed, we needed to be dry, we needed to be bathed, they would take care of us. And so now what happens is, as soon as we realize that our loved one is not attending to our needs, we revert back to the behavior of the infant in that bassinet. So what does an infant in the bassinet do? The infant in the bassinet will cry as long and as hard as it needs to in order to get its needs met. It's going to scream, it's going to yell, it's going to cry, it's going to have blood-curdling screams in order to have a caretaker run over to that baby and take care of its needs. So now that we don't feel loved or we feel neglected and we feel that we need to be taken care of, and then we revert to the same behavior. And so does your partner. So your partner and you both scream, yell, cry, call out until your partner comes to the rescue. Now, often this doesn't happen that way, and it doesn't happen in the way that you want either. Usually they get irritated and upset because they're not going to love you unconditionally the way a caretaker loves an infant unconditionally. Now, the other thing that can happen is that failure to thrive is really when a caretaker doesn't emotionally respond to a baby who is in need, and after a while that baby will withdraw. And it withdraws through that era of neglect, and you might notice as well that your love partner may withdraw. If they cry out to you too many times and you don't respond, then they respond by withdrawing. And that's not really healthy either, but it is a defense mechanism. So let's recap a little bit. Your love partner loves you and cares for you, and they're trying so desperately to get their needs met simultaneously while you are trying to get your needs met. As a result, you guys engage in separate but parallel monologues, not really reaching each other's needs, but talking at each other rather than getting to know the feeling, the emotion, the real need underneath the surface, underneath all that turmoil, which can come out as excessive talking, screaming, yelling, sarcasm, name-calling, or withdrawal. Your love partner is not out to get you. They're not out to do this to you on purpose. They are simply a wounded child in need of having the needs met that were neglected to be met in the exact way that they needed it during their childhood. You are also a wounded child trying to get your needs met in a way that would resonate with you that were neglected to be fulfilled in childhood. So nobody's a bad person here. Your love partner is innately good. They have the best intentions at heart. Their heart is in a good place, and your heart is in a good place. So once we establish this, then we're able to commence with some of the healing, which is referred to as Imago dialogue. It's looking at things from a different perspective. It's being able to get curious instead of assessing blame and shame and guilt. So it's this opening into realizing that I can't be paranoid about this. My love partner loves me. I love him or her. They're not out to get me. Everything is good. We're just masking our true feelings, emotions, desires, and our needs, our innate needs to have these wounds healed. And so when you look at it like that, it becomes a lot less personal, if you will. It is personal, but it becomes a lot less personal where you don't feel attacked. You don't feel like you're under attack because you're really not under attack. That person's just simply trying to get their needs met, and you are too. So your needs are important, your partner's needs are important, and no one person's needs are more important than the other. They're just needs, and they just need to be fulfilled. So let's explore in the next video, what are a couple things that you can start to do to start healing your love relationship. Thank you so much for joining. Please subscribe below. Share this video with friends, family, Facebook, social media, Instagram, and I will see you in the next video.